Hello and welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria for the final weekend of Championship action. Well, in the league anyway. And for the final time, I fear, we're going to be joined by Josh. I'm
Pleasure.
sure you enjoyed your weekend, Josh.
Yeah, I had a very busy weekend. Very tired. A few sore heads from my fellow Falkirk fans this weekend, but no, an absolute joy to celebrate lifting the championship trophy.
Yep, you jammy sod, at least you have something to celebrate. Um, yeah, so it is done. We have gone through all 36 games, and going into this weekend, there is still a lot to play for. Of course, there was the Championship title, and the main selection for BBC Scotland was, of course, Falkirk against Hamilton, with Falkirk needing a win to guarantee the title, or just better whatever Livingston do. Meanwhile, Hamilton Accies, they had their appeal rejected, to absolutely no one's surprise. So they stay in the relegation zone. They're relegated. It is League One for them. Definitely confirmed now. It's all sorted. I mean, it's Hamilton Accies at this point. Who knows what's going to happen with them?
Yeah,
But
interesting. They did release their club statement last night. Obviously, they've had their move. Their rent agreement with New Douglas Park has not been renewed. They'll be moving to Broadwood next season. Their appeal got rejected, so their 15-point deduction stands, and they've confirmed that next season they will be staying full time in League One.
yeah, it's just like having covered Inverness in depth. It's just a case of this screams like the exact same thing's going to happen. Like, I'm telling you right now, Aki's will be in administration by October. I even put it up on Twitter. I can tell you right now that's what's going to happen with them. But yeah, so it was like, of course, it was the main event on the television with Falkirk facing an already relegated Accies to win the league. It didn't start off up the plan, did it, Josh?
Absolutely not. It started in the most Falkirk way possible, having only won once in our last four games before Friday night, and set pieces being our kryptonite. And this whole season, to be honest, Hamilton get what I'd say is a relatively cheap free kick halfway inside their own half. They managed to clip the ball into the box, knock down. I think it was Todorov managed a kind of half volley towards goal. Nicky Hogarth could only palm it to Scott Robinson, who was just in the right place at the right time to tap it into the empty net to send the 25 Hamilton Accies fans delirious in their little section of the North Stand. And Falkirk Hearts and the fans, they didn't drop. They had the belief, they backed the players, and really that's when Falkirk woke up and started to play their football.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's like, obviously, it's like when you've got things to play for, you're going to have tabs on everything, and it's just seeing like the first notification come through is Aki's being 1-0 up. You're just thinking to yourself, why? Why is this happening? That's very funny. Of course, I was happy about it for two reasons, because hopefully it would wake Livingston up, and also it would just be funny. But yeah, it didn't stay that way, did it?
No, absolutely not. After that early nervousness, that goal actually seemed to relax Falkirk, because in the first 5 minutes or so, their passing had, I wouldn't say it was slack, but it was slightly behind the play. Things weren't necessarily just flowing the way that they have been this season, and having gone a goal down, the team really just, took a deep breath, said, right, we're in this for the long haul. We need to really get our backside in gear, and they really started to kick on, and that's what they did. Just really good chances. Scott Arfield had a few kind of opportunities inside the box that just bobbled away from him, couldn't get a good strike at goal. Aki's moved to a back five, which really they could just throw bodies in front of the ball. Calvin Miller had a few efforts that kind of blazed over the bar. Dylan Tate had one of his best game in months, to be honest, winning things all over the place, and he had a few efforts that they just couldn't find the target.
Yeah, and then your first goal with the free kick. I think a lot of people are. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say they're questioning Dean Linus, because I I think most people have said about Dean Linus already, about how he's barely a championship goalkeeper. He's just about a League One goalkeeper at this point. But Yeah, that was it was I mean, it was a decent hit, but like,
You've got to credit his ability to get the ball up and over the wall
uh,
from that distance, but it's in the middle of the goal, so you're really expecting a championship standard keeper to save that. I don't know why he's positioned his wall really well, but he's then just said, "Okay, I'm going to give you the entire the other side of the goal to aim at, and I'm just going to stand basically on the post."
it
So
was
yeah, I don't know. I was expecting Calvin Miller to try and whip it round the other side and just bend it round, but thankfully Ethan Ross went for and just chipped it over and got that equaliser.
yeah, and from that point on, it was just all Falkirk. It was only going to go one way once that equaliser was in.
I feared it might go similar to the week before when against Partick, once we'd got the equaliser, half time came at a time when Falkirk were just having chance after chance, and half time almost killed the momentum. But this week, I think they learned their lesson and came out just the same way they went in it after half time. Eventually, Falkirk get a corner of their own. Brad Spencer puts the ball in the mix, or Gary Oliver's shot's blocked, and it falls to the goal scorer, the hero of the night, Ethan Ross, to just lift it over Linus and slam it home.
Yeah, and then of course second half comes along and Ross scores again,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
and and then 71st minute Calvin Miller comes along, makes it 3-1, and at that point it's just you've done it.
At that point, we desperately needed that third goal because you've got that feeling where, well, if Livingston got an equaliser, then all it would take is a kind of half chance here or there. And you've got to actually give Accies their credit. Kyle McDonald had two efforts from long range that kind of just flashed past the post, and one went just over the bar. And if any of them had been on target, they were definitely beating Hogarth. They were fantastic strikes. Kev O'Hara had half a chance when he came on as well, and they defended relatively well. And on the whole, a few silly mistakes that from kind of set pieces that they conceded, and Calvin Miller's is just a really good strike. So I thought Hamilton put on a reasonable performance, but just Falkirk on the day did a lot of the hard work, moving Hamilton side to side, and then just getting those balls into good areas.
Yeah, so of course, with that result, it meant what we'd been saying had been inevitable for about 2 months, but then these guys tried to throw it away seemingly this past March, April, sorry. Yep, I can't believe I'm having to. I don't want to say these words.
Say it. Let us enjoy. Let's enjoy you saying them. Nice and loud, nice and proper.
Grangemouth are champions of the Falkirk. Falkirk have won the championship. They've done it back to back after 5 years of finding ways to just somehow not make it out of League One. They've made up for it with back to back promotions, and fair play. To just, as much as it pains me to say it as a rival fan, just fair play. Like, just no one expected this to happen. I was like, going into this season, I mean, I think I predicted Falkirk to finish like in the playoffs at least. I had a feeling it was like Falkirk is like looking at them. It's like that's a really good squad. It's like they had a good championship squad, and with it being Livingston who came down, I felt this was like an opportunity for just about anyone who is going to finish in the top half, who were like your top end championship teams. It's like any of them could actually win the league. Whereas like in previous years where you've had like Dundee United, Kilmarnock, Dundee, Hearts, whenever it's like when it's one of like the actually decent sized Premiership teams coming down, it's always the case of they're going straight back up. We just got to pray for someone in the playoffs. But no, it's like this time with Livingston and coming down. There was that sense of opportunity. It's like Raith fans, Thistle fans. I mean, like half the division was have been looking at that, just being we could go for a title charge, but no, it's Falkirk who've done it. So I'm
Yeah,
sure you
and
were loving life.
I was, and what I quite like about the way we've done it is that, well, as you mentioned, it was the most championship it's been for the past kind of 10 years. No bigger fish as such. Plenty of big clubs, but none with the financial backing that there has been. And Falkirk will end the season in profit this year. So they've managed to win the league, but without spending. I think losses of 2 million for Dundee United, Kilmarnock, Dundee when they've won the championship. So Falkirk have done it through their fan ownership, and from obviously they got the cup run, they got the draw against Celtic. When they beat Hearts, they got the money tie against Celtic.
You
And they
didn't get a
also,
Scottish Cup run though, did you?
aye, that's plenty.
I have to give myself something.
And then, and also the sale of Callum Morrison as well would have helped boost some financial funds as well. So we'll finish the season in profit and Premiership football next year.
It's like first time in 15 years?
15 years, yes.
Yeah, we're getting a Clydesdale Premiership. That's what we're getting. Right, we're going back to those days, back when it was Setanta Sports showing games.
Bring back
we're going back to that time. But so we might as well cover the other big game, and that was Livingston against Partick Thistle. Now, unfortunately, as mentioned before in this podcast, Partick Thistle have their highlights behind the paywall, so can't use those ones. So, but Livingston are the home team, so of course, you'd expect them to have the highlights. No. We're recording this in the Sunday afternoon. Normally we record these on a Monday or Tuesday, but I'm on holiday and also the playoffs, so got to deal with that. But no, there was no highlights, so we're just going to go off of what we were hearing from the game, because obviously we're keeping tabs on this, and it seemed to be a case of it was all Livingston, but they were doing everything but put the ball in the back of the net. But then when they do put the ball in the back of the net, it's their own one, because it's Macaulay Tate scoring an own goal in the 40th minute.
Yeah, and it was at this point I had the Sky Sports app open all through the first half and just keeping tabs on what the score was elsewhere. And I just saw, chance for Livingston, chance for Livingston, chance for Livingston, goal for Partick, Macaulay Tate own goal, and Macaulay Tate obviously a loan signing that I think's been he's been a really good one. I think he's really improved Livingston's team. Just his work rate, his determination. He's got a little bit of pace, good footballing brain on him. So I think it came from a set piece. I'm not entirely sure. I was just trying to hear from rumblings around the ground about what happened, but yeah, thankfully Livingston, who have I think been unlucky quite a few times this season. The fact that they've drawn a lot of games, they've not lost that many, but they've just not been able to get to grind out the wins, which is what Falkirk, I think, maybe lost a few more games, but just managed to turn those draws into wins.
Yeah, I've got a table up here. Falkirk finished with 7 losses. Livingston finished with 6, but Livingston finished with 10 draws versus Falkirk's 7.
Yeah,
and that's where the difference has been. But also, there's the fact that Falkirk against Livingston and Ayr have actually been quite poor, but they've been putting away the teams below that. Whereas Livingston, I've said this so many times, where it's they've not convinced me.
no,
They've not convinced me this season. I've seen Falkirk play and being yeah, they're one of the best sides in the division, but it's with Livingston, it's just not really. I've never really felt that way with them, and it's a weird one. It just feel like this side that will just occasionally just grind out a result. But as you say, it's the draws that have killed them, and so it's with this one, it just was just somehow unable to score a goal, which very greatly annoyed me. And of course, it's now with them not supplying any highlights for this game, I just want to say, Livingston, you are a disgrace of a football club. You are useless as a town. No one likes you as a town. You exist for the sole purpose of a shopping centre, and your club can go back to Meadowbank. Because we might as well cover... Because of this 1-0 win for Thistle out of nowhere, who, by the way, this is this is just mental. It's going into the final 5 games, I'd consigned to the fact that Partick Thistle were going to get that 4th spot. Because of the fact they played the bottom 3, and, it's right, put those aside, and then and then they played the top two. They got 1 point out of a possible 9 from playing the bottom three, and then they go and beat Falkirk and Livingston back to back. It's quite funny. It's annoying, but I respect the patter. But yeah, so it's like with that result, Partick Thistle have managed to get the playoffs. So I mean, Kieran's not here; he's probably still on the lash. I don't know what he's doing. But yeah, they've managed to somehow stay above us in the playoffs despite us doing everything, which we might as well cover next. Yeah, we were away to Queen's Park. I was confident of a win. I was like, the permutations for us were we had to. It was a case of win and hope Livingston win, or if the game finished in a draw, we had to win by 4 goals. We very much did our part. Let's just put it that way. We very much did our part. For eventually, it's like it would take a while. It would take something like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, or something like that to get the first goal. Callum Fordyce scoring from a bit of a messy corner where he gets a shot away at the edge of the box and it ends up in the back of the net. A couple minutes later, Lewis Vaughan would score a penalty, his first goal of the season, which makes this the 13th consecutive season of Lewis Vaughan scoring for Raith Rovers, which, considering his injury record, is remarkable. But so yeah, we're 2-0 up going into halftime. I think we got that first goal just after. I think it was just after Thistle went 1-0 up. So of course we're just like, right, we're doing our part. Livingston, can you like be a competent football team? We very quickly decide trying to think, there was a chance for Lewis Vaughan. He managed to dribble past a couple of players, but Queen's Park's keeper managed to save it. Who I must say, I think Queen's Park were playing like a B team or something. To be fair, I can't tell the difference at this point. But
Yeah, I did notice as well. There
it's
was
like
no
reading the
Callum
team
Ferry.
sheet, and the first thing that comes up was not Callum Ferry's number, and it's just like, oh my god, we've got a chance finally.
When there's a goalkeeper with the number 60,
Yeah, his
it's
goalkeepper number
never
60.
filling you
There's
with
another player who was
confidence,
like
is it?
39, 42, and you're just sort of like, yeah, they're just playing the kids now. To be fair, it's made no difference to how I perceive Queen's Park for like the past 3 months.
No, the Queen's Park, they've got their own problems at the moment, obviously, with Hoy um, announcing that he's withdrawn funds. Obviously, their youth team's up in the air. I think the biggest thing was when they sold Dom Thomas and didn't replace him.
And
Uh,
Peyton, Rui Peyton as well.
yeah, but even the start of this season, they looked respectable. Once they sold Dom Thomas in January, they didn't replace him at all. And he was really the spine of the team. He was the experience. Then he could link the play, and he didn't necessarily. He did get some good goals, but I wouldn't say he was a regular like in the top goal scorer charts. But he certainly he held that team together. He was the experience that they needed, and obviously I think they tried to use the loan market, but it's really hard when you've got a team full of young lads to pick up results. And I actually think, because from watching the highlights, Queen's Park, they definitely played some football and there was some nice passes of play, but the inexperience shot them in the foot and they shot themselves in the foot at times, particularly with a certain goal that we're about to come on in the second half.
Yeah, it's like when they were going forward, there was something where it's like it's like that final edge just wasn't quite there for them. But yeah, it's like second half. That's when Lewis Vaughan had the. Actually, saying that Vaughan had a chance before he went 1-0 up. Lewis Vaughan could have scored like 4 goals in this game.
Raith Rovers had so many chances that it's hard for us. And I just watched highlights today, and it's still hard to remember all the chances because there were that many of them.
I know that's what I'm struggling with as well. But yeah, so it's like second half starts and Lewis Vaughan dribbles past a couple of players, but keeper saves it. But then balls at the back. I can't remember who had it. I can't. If I think it might have been Fordyce. He tries playing it to Hanlon, but hits Droz on like the side of the head, and it just falls like perfectly for him to like run onto it and manage to get a goal. And at that point, of course, it's like I've watched Raith Rovers long enough, and I know exactly where this is going. But not under Robson. This hasn't been happening under Robson, where we've been chucking things away. Aside from the Morton game, just putting it there before Aidan shouts at me in the group chat. But from that point on, that was like the only real thing Queen's Park did, because from that point on, it was just battering ram.
Yeah.
At,
You got to
Vaughan
credit
getting
Seb Joe's
pinned.
finish though, because the way it was very clever. He kind of it was almost like he was doing keepy up. He's a nice little control off his knee and hit it on the half volley. It was a Seb Droz is one of those players where he's got such a good technical ability, but I think he just lacks some physical presence at times.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like watching the highlights back for it. I didn't realize at the time during the game, but it's just like, yeah, he was doing keepy uppies on the pitch. It's like Jinky Johnson against England back in like the 1960s or whatever. I don't know how I've been able to bring that off the top of my head, but here we are. But but yeah, so yeah, it's like they'd have that bit of brilliance for getting that goal, but then of course, like not even 10 minutes later, Lewis Vaughan gets his second and Reef's third through an interesting set of circumstances. It's like the goalkeeper's gone to clear it and it's hit off Vaughan's arse as he's like jumped in front, and of course it's fallen to him, and he's just gone round the keeper and slots it home. 3-1, easy days. 15 minutes later, Vaughan then wins a penalty, and you might be thinking, "Oh, come on, you got to give him it for his hat trick or whatever." No, it was Dylan Easton who was taking this one, and he made it 10 penalties out of 10 that he has scored so far this season. That made it 4-1, and then with 5 minutes ago, Aidan Marsh, he'd come on not long before that. Long ball over the top. He manages to shrug off the Queen's Park defender and hits it first time, low and sweet, 25 yards out, right into the bottom corner. Lovely finish.
So, Callum, I've got a question for you. What do you think of Aidan Marsh? Because I've seen him a few times this season. Obviously, the cup game, which is one, and when he's played us a few weeks ago, and I've always been very impressed with him. I thought he's quick. He's not the tallest, but he's strong and he's quick and he's good technically. But he seems to be coming off the bench quite a lot. Is that a tactic to try and just let him pounce on tired defenders?
Yeah, I feel like that's what the tactic has been from him. He's not played as much as he probably wants to, as much as the fans want to. The fans are like, we love him. It definitely just started like immediately after that first game, where it's like he'd been with the squad for about a day and then put out a really good performance against Falkirk in the cup, and then of course he's scored against you at the last game, and then of course with his game against Queen's Park, he's definitely scored another one before that as well. But yeah, he's lovable, and he is a good footballer. He definitely has something there, and it's just a shame we never got to see as much as we probably wanted of him. But yeah, it's like if he was to come back for next season, I'd be more than happy. Just to hear him say "A up Rovers" one more time. But yeah, so of course it's like we've won 5-1, and our game finished before the Livingston Partick game, so like, everyone's still staying behind. But then of course it's like full time happens at Livingston. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, we've done everything we can. And to be fair, it is very much a case of, yes, there was a draw with Morton. Yes, there was a draw with Airdrie where Scott Brown missed from like 5 yards or something ridiculous like that. And up with the game against Morton, there was the missed penalty right at the end. But it's like, it's not down to those two. It's just down to the fact that the first half of the season we were awful. We were not good. It was like Robson, he said in his post match about the fact that when he took over, we were 5 points above Dunfermline, which, considering how bad they've been, and that they're tied with Queen's Park, and now we're like what 15 points clear of them or something daft like that. 18 points clear of Dunfermline. So yeah, it's like, and I think there was a point where we were 11 points off of Fessel. So to have brought it back to the point where it's like final game of the season, and even before, and going into the penultimate game of the season where we were level on points, and I feel like it's like, and since Robson came in at New Year, I think we've got like the third highest points tally,
Yeah,
and like we end the season 10 unbeaten, and the way Robson's got us playing is much better than what we had on the Collins. I know that was like a short period of time, but it's like we haven't had like aside from a 4-0 defeat to Queen's Park, just aside from that game, and there was also the 5-0 defeat to Celtic. I mean, like, come on, that's Celtic. You got to give a pass for that. There's not been any point where it's been a case of we were bad. I've not felt that way at all under Robson. Actually, no, there was a derby defeat to Dunfermline away. That was just madness. But yeah, like, these last 2 months have just been really good for me. It's given people a lot of hope. Whereas,
yeah,
like, if going into Christmas, there was like a genuine. It's like after we lost 3-0 at Falkirk, there was like, oh god, we're going to be in like the scrap with Dunfermline, Accies, and Edgery, aren't we? It felt that way, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we go about our summer business with like who comes in, who stays, who goes, that sort of thing. And yeah, just hoping to see more of what I've seen from the past two
yeah.
months. Like it's been a good end to the season for us, and it's a shame we're not going to get the playoffs. But it's like considering like the first half of the season that we had, we should have been nowhere near it. So
Yeah. I
in
think
that context,
I think with Robson, since he's took over, you've got yourselves an identity,
mm-hmm.
which is solid at the back. You kind of play that kind of wing backs, three at the back, three centre halves, wing backs, and kind of two up top with Easton kind of floating about the place. And it's solid. Like you have a game plan. It's fairly tidy football. I think Easton's a good player. He can just having him the freedom to go and pick up different pockets of space wherever he wants. He can drift, and the rest of the team, three centre halves are all more than capable. Maybe not the quickest, but they've got the experience, and I think having that extra centre half in there allows them not to be the quickest. But I've been impressed with is it Jordan Doherty?
Doherty, yeah, he's
Yeah,
been unreal. He's
I've
been
been
very,
been
very
very
good.
impressed with him this season. I think he's been a good addition, and I think if they can pick up more players like him, just to round that, not necessarily flashy signings, but just good, dependable players, just to fill out the squad.
Yeah, that's all I feel like we need. Just those sort of signings, those Doherty-esque signings, just solid, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's Queen's Park. Meanwhile, we've talked about how it's like they've just been awful this calendar year. It was like before. I think it was like about Christmas time. They were either fourth or fifth.
They were
They were
fifth up
definitely
until
about that
yeah,
spot with Thistle for that final playoff spot. And I think since oh god, I think they've only earned themselves 9 points or 10 points, something like that, since the new year, which is awful and is like it's by far the worst. Like I think Accies without their points deduction have had 18 and they're the second worst. That's how bad it's been, and I only fear that it's going to get worse for them. With Jorge leaving, they are definitely favourites to go straight back down. For me, they're going to go straight down next season.
yeah. I think that they're going to need a miracle. Have they appointed their new manager yet?
No, they haven't.
So I think that'll be an interesting appointment. I don't know who would want that job. To be honest, it's not an attractive job. So probably someone with a lot to prove. So I think that'll be the
James McPeak, bring him back. I need to laugh at him more. Who else? Peter Grant.
yeah.
He was the one who was like, "Oh, I want the Motherwell job," and it's just like, no, it didn't even apply for it. Clubs would come to me. Saying that the director of football is like
Or
Jorge's son-in-law or something like that. So
son-in-law, yes.
he might be gone as well. Who knows?
But who knows? Barry Ferguson might be looking for a new job soon. So
Aye. It'll be an interesting summer for Queen's Park. Um, suppose we need to go into the dead rubbers now. Morton were at home to Dunfermline, and so it's like Morton, they were guaranteed to finish sixth after Thistle beat Falkirk last weekend. That meant that despite even if they beat Raith and then won today, they couldn't get the playoffs. So, but they did. They still managed to keep themselves with an interesting week because it is Greenock Morton. What else are we going to do? So first of all, their calendar was wrong. Their calendar had April 31st on it. April 31st does not exist. um, but then it came out that someone stumbled upon the list of clubs that FIFA have like sanctions on for like registering players, and it was like 7 weeks ago Morton got added to the list, and no one had noticed. Like the club hadn't put out anything about it, and like no one else had like seen it like pop up on there whenever clubs have been in the news about being added to the list. It just somehow like Morton have gone under the radar for all this. I believe the reasoning for it was the paperwork that FIFA and whatnot send clubs got sent to the old club email instead of a new one, and so they got the stuff late, and so of course ended up submitting it late, and because they've submitted it late, they've been put on the 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 list of clubs that can't register new players, which that's going to get dropped. There's no way that's not going to get dropped for the summer, but
Yeah.
it's very funny.
It is quite amusing. I did see a club statement of some kind, don't know how official it was, saying that, they were fully expecting it to be sorted. It was just a small administrative error. But I thought, well, small administrative errors can end up with 15-point deductions these days. So,
I
but
don't think it would be right to call what happened with Hamilton Accies a small administrative error.
I'm only quoting from the club here. I can only quote from the club. So no, but I do think Morton will have no problem when it does come to June. They've got a month now to kind of get all the paperwork side of things sorted. They are allowed to continue to offer their existing squad contracts. So they don't know how much of the squad Dougie Emery wants to keep, mind you.
He's been raging about them for a few weeks, so
so absolutely, it'll be interesting time at Capello.
yeah. And the game itself, meanwhile, Dunfermline, meanwhile, they were guaranteed eighth at a minimum, seventh through the fact that Queen's Park have been getting pumped every weekend. So for them, there was nothing to play for. But this game was over after 10 minutes. Moffat gave Morton a lead in the third minute, shot just inside the box, and then a couple minutes later, Morton once again benefiting from a slightly dodgy penalty call. It's like since Emery came out and slammed the referees over the goal disallowed against Livingston, that is 3 penalty decisions that have gone their way. I'm seeing a pattern here.
I honestly think this was more of a penalty than your second penalty. So
Yeah.
So I don't think you're in any position to be complaining about decisions.
Oh no, I'm more than happy to admit that our second penalty. I'm like, wait, that was given. I was baffled by it at the time.
But yeah, it was a soft decision. Moffat's goal was relatively well done. He nipped in his own half, took the ball off the defender, some nice move, and then he just gets there on the end of it. So a lot of hard work from Moffat, who I think is one of Morton's better players. I think he might be one that Emery does end up trying to re-sign. But yeah, Dunfermline have been a club this season where they've just. You mentioned it, I think last time I was on the pod. One of the lowest scorers in the country, and if they're under Neil Lennon, he's made them slightly more solid at the back. But as soon as they concede, it's an absolute mountain to climb for them to try and get back in the game.
Yeah, it's like they don't score. It's like I updated the thing last week where it's like, as you mentioned, the last time you were on, I mentioned that they were down in like ninth for like they were the ninth worst attack, and then it's like after last week I updated it all and it was down to down to fourth, and it's as you say, it's like Neil Lennon has made them more solid. They've been conceding less goals, but the thing is, I think in the 7 games in charge, they've only scored 2 goals, and because once again they've gone goalless, so they finish this season with a goals per game ratio of 0.78 goals per game, which is the fourth worst in Scotland still. So yeah, that is, and that's with Chris Kane being like towards the top end of the league goal scorers. So yeah, something they should really sort out as soon as possible going into the summer. Morton, meanwhile, they finished sixth. I mean, as I mentioned last week, they had the opportunity to finish the season with an incredibly Morton record, and they have done it because they have finished with 12 wins, 12 draws, and 12 losses. So well done, Greenock Morton. I think the real winners this week have been Greenock Morton for that perfect 12, 12, 12. If only they finished, right? If only they scored 6 more goals in this game, they could have finished with 0 goal difference. They would have finished on 48 goals for, 48 goals against, and 48 points, which would have just been
That
like
would have been the most
that's
Morton thing to have ever. Yeah. So well done, mediocre Morton.
yep. And our final dead rubber is Airdrie against Ayr. Airdrie were happy with the outcome, obviously, because with the Accies point appeal, because it meant that, well, Airdrie stay in the division for now. They've got the playoffs to go through. They've got the relegation playoffs to go through. Meanwhile, Ayr United, they've been third, guaranteed third since they got pumped off of Livingston a couple of weeks back. Only goal of this game would be Dempsey scoring from a corner just before half time. It was a weird one, like looping header that just sort of hit right on the underside of the bar in the top corner. So, like, perfect place to put it. And with that being the only goal, Ayr managed to get their first win in 5, which isn't ideal form for getting in for looking forward to the playoffs. But a win's a win, better than nothing. Meanwhile, Airdrie they go into their relegation playoffs winless in 4, with 2 draws away from home in that time and 2 losses at home, which is weird. You'd expect it to be the other way around, but no.
Yeah. Interesting though. I think that certainly the balance of the game, Airdrie were the much better side. Airdrie did everything but score. There was a few chances where like they got around the goalkeeper and they had like shots getting blocked before they get to the goal line. A few, I think McGrattan had a kind of 2 really good efforts from just outside the box where he had probably time to take an extra touch, but he just rushed it and couldn't time it right. So Reece Armstrong had a couple of excellent opportunities as well. And Ayr United, other than a Curtis Main effort in the second half, didn't really capitalise on any opportunities. So yeah, Scott Brown, who obviously had such a great start to the season, his team a bit like Falkirk, limping towards the end of the season. I think it'll be interesting this playoffs. Thistle having got back to back wins, that could lift them a little bit. Ayr United struggling. We're in for a good playoff matchup.
That one, that will be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, Air is like since they were like tied with us at the top back in end of January, beginning of February, and as mentioned, they've just fallen off. They finished 10 points behind you.
Since Morton beat them, which I think was right at the start of March, or maybe end of February. I think Morton maybe beat them 2-1 or 2-0. And I remember, I think they were maybe level on points for us then, or maybe like just 2 points behind. And
Yeah, it does feel about right. Some point in February, they were
I think since then they've just completely fallen away.
Yeah, they have. Meanwhile, Airdrie, it's a weird one with Airdrie because, like as you say, you felt like off the balance of the game, it was Airdrie doing everything but score. But it's something that we've said like so often. I swear to God, we've been saying it just about every week when they haven't been winning, especially during the first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it myself when they've played Falkirk. Certainly in the last quarter when we beat them 2-0, it was a case of they literally did everything but score. I do think they're maybe two or three players away from being a real force. Obviously, they've got the youngster in goals, Melrose, at the moment, who I think is only about 18 or 17.
Mhm.
I think he's been impressive. I just think they need a wee bit more experience. A really good goal scorer. Obviously, they paid a bit of cash for Ben Wilson that it hasn't really worked out the way they wanted. So I think maybe a more experienced striker. I do think Wilson's a good player, but I think he's maybe had too much pressure put in his shoulders.
Yeah, it's like Edry. They also, like Dunfermline, have finished with less than a goal per game in the league. They finished with 34 goals from 36 games. So if anyone wants to do the maths, then there you go. It's going to be like 0.95 or something like that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do in the playoffs because on the one hand, so it's like obviously facing League One opposition that's not going to be then they might not be as good as obviously Championship opposition, but will that still hold true for their goal scoring roles? And also the fact that when it comes to them conceding goals, it's like half the goals that they've conceded, which is a lot, have been comical. It's been comical defending errors from them that has been really the downfall. But it's like with their season, they were on 6 points at New Year.
Yeah,
So
it's
granted,
been an
they've very
impressive
much been helped
time.
by the Accies point deduction, but it's like since the New Year, there was something. I think on that league table I'd seen, they were something like fifth or something. They were about. They'd earned more points this calendar year before. Uh, they'd earned more points this calendar year than Partick Thistle, but that was before Partick Thistle won their last two games. Um, but yeah, it's like they were effectively a mid-table side, and the thing is, like the first half of the season, they were just battered by injuries,
Yeah,
and they just weren't able to get people in to replace them. Whether that's on McKeeb or whether it's on whoever does the recruitment at Edry, then that's the
Jackie McNamara.
aye, aye, that's to be debated. But it will be interesting to see how they do in the playoffs. So that's all the games covered. So our final table ends with Falkirk on top, 73 points. They 3 points ahead of Livingston, who ruined everyone's weekend by losing to Thistle. They finished second on 70 points. They've been third for weeks. They finally got a win, but they're on 63 points. And then Partick Thistle have managed to shithouse their way into fourth, despite the fact they've been in the top four pretty much all season. 55 points, 2 points ahead of Raith on 53.
Where did they
Morton,
finish? Sorry, Callum, go and remind me where they finished.
who Raith Rovers? Yeah, fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but perfectly. Actually, we're the mediocre team. We're the mediocre team. It's not Morton because we finished perfectly mid-table. Um, but yeah, Morton finished sixth, 48 points. I suppose the two of us can laugh at Dunfermline for finishing seventh on 35 points. Um, yeah, and then Queen's Park eighth. They're also 35 points, minus 19 goal difference, and actually the only team in the championship to not get a single win in their final five. So that's fun for them. Adri finished ninth on 29 points, and Accies finished 10th on 21 points, despite what John Rankin wants you to believe, where he is still banging the drum about them finishing 7th on 36 points. John, no. Seeing that, because of the 3-1 defeat, Accies finished with the worst defence of the season. So well done. You've taken that from Edry, but yeah, Edry
That's
still finished with a slightly worse goal difference. But with the league season over, that only means one thing: it's time for the playoffs. Of course, we have this week the promotion playoffs for A United and Partick Thistle. They'll be played Tuesday and Friday. Yeah, Friday night. Um, how do we see this one going?
I think Ayr United at um, Somerset Park are a different breed than Ayr United away from home. So I think Partick Thistle will use the confidence in the home leg, maybe get a draw or a narrow victory, but I think Ayr United will win the tie at their place and take them into their match-up versus Livingston.
Yeah, that's sort of what my feeling was going into it as well, where it's a case of Ayr have been really good at Somerset, but it's a away form that's been letting them down, especially recently. And I was thinking, yeah, it'll be a case of Thistle will probably get like a narrow win at Firhill. Um, but then at Somerset Park, it could very easily be 2 or 3-0 to Ayr. So that one will be, I mean, it'll be an interesting matchup either way, just because of especially after the last 2 weeks with Thistle getting back-to-back wins against the top two. It makes it very interesting going into that one. And of course, we should probably mention the League One playoffs, because of course that involves a championship team, and the winner of that ends up in our division for next season. Well, I say our division, not Josh. God damn it, you've ruined this. Just go to the Premiership pod. I can't wait to not deal with you anymore. But yeah, so Adrionians, they will take on Stenhousemuir, who managed to beat Dumbarton on the final day, whereas Alloa got defeated. That meant that they ended up in fourth instead of, well, Alloa. It'll be interesting to see how that one goes. I feel as though Airdrie will have too much for them, especially if they keep them. It is a case of if they play the way they play going forward, Airdrie should have too much for them. But if they play the way they've been playing at the back, we can very easily see Stenny come away with this with a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Stenny of this last quarter have almost ran out of steam at times. I feel like at the start they had a great start. Obviously they were still in the title race about a month ago, and then just a serious drop off in form. I'm not sure if there's injuries going on over there, but certainly on their day can be a good side. But I think Airdrie will have too much for Stenny.
Yeah, I do feel. Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's like Airdrie have been a mid-table championship side this past few months, so I feel like they'd have too much for them. And the other playoff match for League One is Cove Rangers against Queen of the South, and all I'm just going to say is Queen of the South, please,
Please,
just win it.
Queens. Please, Queens, do us
Please,
a favour.
Queen. I do not want Cove in the championship. Nobody wants Cove in the championship. I want to go to Palmerston for an away day, not an industrial estate on the south side of Aberdeen.
Yeah, Queen of the South. The second half of the season though have done well. Peter Murphy's got them some much better stuff. Jordan Allen's just coming to a bit of form as well. So hopefully he can score a few goals to sink Paul Hartley and Cove Rangers.
Yeah, it's like Queen of the South. It's a case of they drew the last game of the season against Arbroath, who are champions, and it's like since Arbroath were confirmed champions, they've sort of like dropped off quite a bit. I think they got beat 5-1 off of Dumbarton or something,
Yeah, I know.
like the week after they confirmed the title.
Nice.
That was a weird. No, it was Annan. It was Annan they lost
Aaron.
to. Yeah, it was a weird one, but it's like before that draw, they'd won their last 4 in a row, and they're unbeaten since the beginning of March, where incidentally they lost to Cove. So they're on a good run of form. So yeah, hopefully it is Queen of the South who come up. Cove, meanwhile, their last 5, 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. So yeah, and it's only 2 points between the two sides. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. As
Either
mentioned,
way, I
hopefully
still think Airdrie will stay up regardless.
yeah, it's a case of I want Queen of the South up. I want Queen of the South to win these playoffs, but yeah, I reckon it'll be Queen of the South against Airdrie for the final. I reckon. We'll see how it goes from there. But so yeah, it's like we will hopefully cover those playoff games. So maybe this isn't the last that you'll hear from me. That's probably like the worst thing I've probably said for some people. So yeah, Falkirk champions. God damn it.
Champions again, ole ole. Champions again, ole ole.
Yep, I think that's time to end it. I'm talking about the podcast, just the podcast. Just ending the podcast for now. That's the only thing that's being ended. So, yeah, thank you all for listening. And of course, we do have the yes. Oh, I know I almost forgot about this last week, but yes, a charity football match. Charity link will be in the description below. We've got a team for it. So yes, um, donate to that, and we'll see you for the playoffs. Well, we maybe won't see Josh. He'll be on the Premiership podcast from now on. So it's been great chatting to you on occasion.
Yeah, been great to be part of the Championship podcast, and yeah, well, who knows? We might end up drawing each other in the cup next year, and we can maybe do a
Again,
cup round up.
run it back, please. So yeah, that's all. Goodbye.
See you later, folks.